and welcome back to Tutor Time with Mallory. Today I have the honor of interviewing Superintendent Lenker. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
How did you know that you wanted to work in the education system?
It's kind of just something that I think I knew that from day one. I remember, in elementary school, we, just kind of playing teacher, welcome back, Cotter. I was always Mr. Cotter in the when we, kind of played games, right? So just I've always been the person in the teacher role.
What was it like receiving your Doctorate of Education degree in Educational Leadership and General Information at East Carolina University?
I guess the biggest part of it was just kind of, whew, thank goodness, right? Take that off the plate. But it's kind of like all of my education, including that one, was kind of more of a, I guess, just an expectation what I was going to do with my career. So kind of knew it was going to happen, just a matter of the right timing. Just like so many things that you do in your career is really a matter of timing and when you do it and how it works. And I started, I got my master's degree in 1991 or something, so it's 15 years later getting the doctorate, but it's really just about the right fit and the right time. And East Carolina brought a lot to me, gave me a lot of opportunities, and now I'm superintendent here in Pitt County.
What was it like receiving your bachelor's degree in mathematics education at Virginia Tech?
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I knew then, and that even when I started my undergrad way back then, I think I had changed majors 2 or 3 times, and I was a biology major for a while. I was a computer science major for a while, and then I just I finally had to figure out where I wanted to go and what I was going to do. And then kind of one thing I was good at was math, so I just said let's just focus on math, and that became you like the teaching part, so it kind of just came that way. Just kind of morphed into becoming a mathematics guy, and got a statistics degree in there as well, or statistics minor, and it all kind of just kind of came together. In Blacksburg, if you've not been to Blacksburg, Virginia, it's a great place. I kind of grew up in that town. I was kind of a local kid, so but it was a lot of fun being there. It was a good school.
What was it like receiving your master's degree in education administration?
That was a little different because I actually started my master's degree before I started teaching. I didn't even have a full-time teaching job when I started my master's degree. I was still substituting. Back then in the late 80s, early 90s, I had a mathematics degree, certified to be a math teacher, and couldn't get a job. That tells you how much times have changed, right? Now we're giving big signing bonuses to math majors, and things like that. But so it was just working on my master's degree was kind of a little more difficult because I'm still a substituting teacher, but my father was a school superintendent, so that kind of, I guess, was the driving force behind a lot of my career. Following, so to speak, in your father's footsteps. But so I started that, just never even stopped. Graduated school and really just kind of kept going. And then finally did start teaching and was able to put all that to use, and then became a school principal a couple years later. So it was, again, it was all part of just the expectation where my career was going to go.
What was it like receiving your Doctorate of Education at East Carolina University?
That was really good. I mean, I met a lot of people who are now superintendents, a lot of people who are, assistant superintendents. I was involved in a cohort of people, about 20 of us, and it was a great group of people that I really got to be friends with and know, and still know a lot of them. And we've worked together a lot. Some of them are still superintendents. So, some of them, luckily for them, have retired already at this point. So, but the part there with ECU being so practical was good hands-on experience. Really, just got to really get involved. Had a professor there by the name of Mark Lesperance, who's now at James Madison, who was just truly taught me a lot about that side of the world, but also about leadership. That's where ECU, I think, made a big deal in my life, and at least in my career, opening these doors and giving me opportunities.
What was the experience like studying at the University of Virginia?
That was good. That was a branch. I actually wasn't in Charlottesville. It was a branch of UVA. Charlottesville would have been really cool, but it was a branch in Southwest Virginia. So I was actually working on my master's, my master's degree in educational leadership. But had I remember one professor I really worked with closely there, who really gave a lot of attention to me and really helped me really focus, my master's program on what I was trying to do and move that forward. So it's, again, I've been pretty lucky, I think. There's the quality of professors I've had at some of these programs at either UVA or Virginia Tech or here at East Carolina, to really keep pushing me forward.
What did you study at the University of Virginia?
It was all educational leadership, basically becoming a school principal or eventually moving on to a different role. But it was all about becoming a school administrator at that point. At UVA and Virginia Tech, where I got my master's, was all about educational leadership. So that was just kind of the same things we do now when you're trying to get your master's in school administration, is what they call it now in most places. But back then it was ed leadership, and a lot of the same type of things, as far as how to work with teachers, how to work with curriculum, how do you just lead through a school, and what does that look like?
What was the experience like studying at the Virginia Highlands Community College?
Now, that was fun. That's back when after I started teaching, or right before I started teaching, I just said, I was a math major, and that first year I couldn't get a job, and I'm like, I thought math majors were needed, right? So, so what's wrong with me, so to speak, right? So I said, well, I'm gonna go get a physics degree. And that's what I studied at Virginia Highlands, was really just getting a physics endorsement. So I just took my 24 hours of physics, and there in that class, that was probably the funnest anything I did outside of my traditional college. Funnest, if that's not a word, I apologize, but it was just a super fun course. It was we're all hands-on. It was most of the time it was just me, the only one in the class. I was working one-on-one with a professor. But then the exciting part was I got to teach at the governor's school program they had at that college. So for Southwest Virginia, Virginia Highlands Community College is in Abingdon, Virginia. So for Southwest Virginia, and what I got to do then is actually teach the summer school governor's program and be part of that. So that just opened up a world of doors to me as far as just experience in teaching and just practical application. And that's where I learned all of my stuff of being a good physics teacher was, just do stuff. It's physics has a lot of books and a lot of formulas, but you got to apply all that stuff. So you just do experiments, and you do little fun things, and you keep the kids involved. So that was probably one of the more fun summer jobs I've ever had, for sure.
What was the experience like working as the essential office director at the North Carolina school systems?
Say that again. What was I?
What was the experience like working as the central office director in the North Carolina school system?
That was in Jones County at the time. I just finished being principal of Jones Middle School for 5 years, and got moved to the central office there in Jones County. And what's, Jones County is probably 1,200 kids or so, maybe. I'm not sure how many they have right now, but back then it was 1,200 or 1,300. I was principal at the middle school for a long time, so the superintendent there brought me to the central office. And one of the things you learn when you're at a place like Jones County, which was a fantastic place, a great school system, great kids, was when I went to the central office there, I wasn't like director of something. I was director of lots of things, right? I was technology director. I was HR director. I was testing and accountability director. So you do multiple hats in a school district when you're the size of a place like Jones County. And I'm sure the people there will tell you the same thing, but that was a great experience because I really got to understand multiple roles in the school district. You know, it certainly made me a much better superintendent because I got to understand what's going on in HR and what's going on in every department in the district. You know, so working in Jones County was just a great experience. And I became superintendent there. I might be jumping ahead of your questions a little bit, but became superintendent in Jones County, you know, after a couple 2 years or so as director there. And again, that's when you're superintendent of a small district, you get to do lots of things. You don't get to do, you have to do lots of things. And it was great. You know, you open school nutrition bids, you open bids for technology, you do all those sort of things. So you really get to understand the intricacies of all the different departments in a place when I was in Jones County.
What were your roles and responsibilities as the central office director?
And Joe, okay, see, I get ahead of myself. Sorry. I was testing director there, and that was really, I started off as testing and accountability, which means that back then it was SIMS programs, which most people, unless you've been in this job for 25 years, won't remember. So I ran that. I had to run all the bubble sheets for testing and did all the testing programs. Plus, I was the HR director. So I hired all the people, doesn't matter what positions, they all came through my office in the county. And then I was also technology director. And we had one technology person who worked with me at the time. So it's eye-opening. It's always moving. You never get bored, for sure. But again, it truly makes a difference on trying to understand how the different departments work together. In fact, you know, we just made some changes here in Pitt County in the last 2 months, and a lot of it was based on some of the things I dealt with when I was in Jones County. So those skills and problems we dealt with then, I'm using those to help me now.
What was the experience like working when you first began your professional career as a superintendent at the Jones County School?
Well, it was obviously thrilling and exciting. Been kind of working on that job for a while. I had been in that district for, at that point, up to maybe 7 years now. At that time, I was a principal for 5, director for a couple. So when I finally got the job, it was, you know, it's kind of like anything else. You get the job, then it's like, okay, now what? Now that I have the job, and I got to figure out exactly what the job is like, and trying to understand, you know, I hate to say politics, but the politics of a superintendent job. How does that work? What goes into it? Then just take all the skills I had worked with and all the different jobs I had and apply that to my new position. And one thing about a lot of these jobs is, you know, when you're watching somebody be a superintendent, that's one thing. When you actually get to be the superintendent, it's something else. You know, it's you never really understand the job, I guess, till you have it. It's kind of like being a school principal. You know, once you get the job, well, all the questions stop there, right? So it's it was eye-opening, all the things I didn't know. But it was a great place to be and a great place to learn. And again, I really enjoyed my time in Jones County.
What were your roles and responsibilities as superintendent at Jones County Schools?
I guess you're basically like the lead CEO, the lead guy. I mean, you're just solving, you know, or not, maybe not even solving, but answering lots of questions all the time, which is kind of what you do as a superintendent. You're trying to get the focus right. You know, we worked to create a great mission and vision statement when I was there. Where are we trying to do? What do we want our kids to learn? What programs would be good in place? You got to evaluate programs. We're spending money on this. Does this actually work, or do we need to look at something else? And how do we know if any of that's true? So we really had to evaluate a lot of the things we were doing. And I was lucky. I had before me, the superintendent was great, Dr. Wilson, and before him was Dr. Boyd, and both were great role models and were people I could talk to and ask questions or call them about. And then of course my father at that point was a school superintendent in Carteret County. So I was able to talk to him and really trying to understand, make sure I was focusing things right, and really just drilling down into the curriculum piece and make sure we're teaching and learning and all that whole process, and making sure our kids are getting what they deserved.
What was the experience like as superintendent at Sampson County Schools?
It's a little different, just like it is here in Pitt. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, going from Jones County Superintendent to Sampson County Superintendent, now in Pitt County Superintendent, it's almost 3 different jobs, right? It's and when I got to Sampson County, one of the things, you know, just by the sheer size difference of the 2 schools, you know, one was 12 or 1,300, the other was 8,000 kids. You know, just the sheer volume of people to help do the work. So it becomes a lot more directive and things you got to do, and you got to be a little more organized as far as meetings and things go, and really have a focus on what you're trying to accomplish. One of the things, you know, I always don't really joke about, but we talk about is in Jones County, there's like 3 or 4 of us in the central office, right? So we all did the work. So it's pretty easy to have a meeting because they're all right there. In Sampson County, obviously we had to get much more formal. And then now here in Pitt County, you have to get very formal. You want to have a meeting with multiple people. So there the work was really, again, we worked on our mission and vision and making sure we were meeting the needs of the kids and looking at our curriculum, trying to balance the needs so every kid was getting what they deserved. And, you know, Sampson County, again, like Jones, is a great place. You know, I lived there for 5+ years and made a lot of good friends. Still have a lot of friends there. But I think the main difference in the job was a little more directive as opposed to getting into the weeds as much. You were a lot more formal with like the county commissioners and things as far as budget presentations and getting into the budget. I don't want to say, I guess maybe kind of got the presentations got pretty tight. You had to really go through that process. And you really had to balance the community in as far as, you know, where you were going we're in Sampson County, where I was, you know, one of the things we always joked about was Friday night football games. Make sure you get to all the schools, right? You know, and go visit all the high schools on Friday night, and or basketball games or volleyball games. So, great experience, great job. I really enjoyed it there, but you had to be just a little more, I guess, I don't know about not necessarily open, but you had to be a little more time sensitive with, you know, because you had a lot more community to work with in that community than in Jones. So you had to get out and make sure you were getting out and meeting all the different people, whether that was the different town communities or the municipalities or the Chamber of Commerce. So the hospital there in town. So just a lot of, I guess just the biggest thing is that'd be a little more formal, a little more directive. And then you had to be just playing a little better for sure. But a lot of the jobs are the same. You know, the superintendent jobs are the same in all over the place to some level. But what you do in the day-to-day is going to be a little bit different.
How was it like transitioning from Jones County School District to Sampson County School District?
The biggest change I think was just and then again, when I came here, the same thing was, you know, going to Sampson, just the sheer size made a big difference in what I was doing on a day-to-day basis, but the actual transition was much more, I guess, because it was just going to a place, you know, in Sampson County. It was much more